とも感謝します。輝く希望に喜びあふれる God is working for my good. God is working for my good. God is working for my good. Yes, He really is. God is working for my good. God is working for my good. すべてが益になる。
1924年8月21日生まれ、第二次世界大戦従軍後、マリオン大学に入学。卒業後、アズベリー神学校に学ぶ。メソジスト教会で3年間牧会し、1953年、チャプレンとして米陸軍に再入隊。陸軍中佐として1971年に退役した。その後、講演、セミナーなどで世界中で活躍し、代表的な著書である獄中からの賛美をはじめ、世界中で1900万部もの著書を世に送り出し、今なお感謝と賛美のメッセージは人々に影響を与え続けている。
He saw that I was a very, very, very unhappy man. I had read in the Bible about God working for our good, but I didn't understand it. And one of my problems was that nearly every Christian I knew was unhappy. Many men were unhappy with their wives, and many wives were unhappy with their husbands, and many parents were unhappy with their children. And many pastors were unhappy with their people. So if God had said, Merlin, I want you to lie down and rest, I would not have understood what he meant. So God said, okay, all right, I will help you. And when I was sitting in a prayer meeting, telling God about all my problems, God reached down and touched me. And I fell down on the floor. And I was laughing. I had no idea why I was laughing. I laughed and laughed and laughed. I don't know how long I did that, but for probably about a half an hour. But it was during that time that God began teaching me about praising Him always. And the main thing He taught me that night was when He asked me if I was thankful that Jesus died for me. Now try to imagine me lying on the floor, laughing, and saying, oh yes, God. Oh yes, God. I'm so thankful Jesus died for me. And I kept hearing God speak to me. I don't mean audibly. I mean in a way He can speak that we're absolutely sure it's Him. And several times He asked me, Merlin, are you really, really happy that Jesus died for you? He was preparing my heart for Him for what He was going to tell me. So are you happy that Jesus died for you? And are you happy that God gave you a clean, new person? Yes, God, I'm really, really thankful. But then God began to ask me, why are you so happy that they did those horrible things to my son? Why are you so pleased that they slapped him and spit upon him? Why are you so glad that they hung him on the cross until he died? Answer me, Merlin. Why are you so pleased? Until finally I said, God, please forgive me. I don't know why I am so glad, but I am. And then he began to teach me, yes, Merlin, that's what I want you to do. Be glad. From now on, I want you to be just as glad for everything that happens to you. Now remember, I'm still laughing. And like a little child, I said, God, I will do it. For the rest of my life, I will be happy no matter what. But I was impressed to remember that I was happy for the horrible things that happened to Jesus. Yes, God, I, Merlin Carruthers, I am going to be happy for whatever happens to me the rest of my life. But you understand, I did not understand what I was saying. I thought, well, this is going to be easy. And I'm sure the devil was laughing. That Merlin Carruthers, all he knows how to do is to grumble. So, do you remember what happened the next morning to me? I woke up feeling so tired. I had to get up early and go to work. And I was still in the Army. And my commanding officer did not care how I felt. I could either be there on time or I was in trouble. So I was stretching. I don't want to get up yet. It's only 5 o'clock in the morning. I want to go back to sleep. And then that's when God spoke to me again. Merlin, what are you doing? I'm wishing I didn't have to get up. Why aren't you filled with joy? Why aren't you thankful? Well, I'm tired. Remember what you said last night. You would be thankful for everything. God, I didn't know you meant things like this. Don't you remember? I said everything. And I can remember how I felt like arguing. God, I can't do that. And I thought maybe that was the end of it. But the next morning when I woke up, I sensed the Spirit of the Lord speaking to me, and He began asking me these little childlike, easy questions. Merlin, can you move your foot? You see, God was dealing with me like I was a little child. And I really was a little child. I couldn't understand what did it mean to always believe that God was working for my good. So the Spirit of the Lord said, Merlin, you can either get up now, filled with joy, or I will make your feet so you cannot move them. God is speaking to you, and He's saying, I want you to learn. And He wants all of His children to learn that He does not want His children to grumble. I remember so well the little lessons He began to teach me to get me ready for larger lessons. So from today on, please be watching for little lessons. Whenever you feel yourself being unhappy about something, stop and think, oh God, I will sing, God is working for my good. And I find out that when I'm beginning to feel pressured or tense, I'll go out for a walk and I'll start singing, God is working for my good. Finally, one day, God spoke to me in His kindness, and He said to me, Merlin, do not be troubled. Trouble in John chapter 14 and verse 27, the God who designed us knows that our hearts should not be troubled. But he also knows that we were born in sin. And our sin nature always wants to be troubled about everything. Jesus was walking on the water and Peter was all excited. He wanted to walk too. And Jesus said, "Okay, Peter, come on, you can walk on the water too." So Peter quickly jumped on the water, and what happened? He walked on top of the water, didn't he? But then what happened? The waves started coming, and Peter got afraid. Have you ever been afraid that God was not going to answer your prayer? And because Peter was afraid, you know what happened. He sank down into the water. Now, many, many times, Jesus kept trying to teach his disciples what he wanted them to do. They would even get troubled about people who died. Jesus wasn't even troubled if somebody died. It didn't make any difference to him. And you and I might respond, well, I wouldn't be troubled either if I knew all I had to do was take a hold of their hand and say, stand up. And even if they were in the grave, it didn't trouble Jesus. Now you and I could easily think, if I could only have all that power, I wouldn't be troubled either. But what comes first? Is it the power or is it the faith in God? We have to learn to have faith in God. God isn't concerned what it is we're going to say, is he? He's concerned about what we feel down in here. He said, do not let your heart be troubled. So we have to learn how to change the way we feel about things. So if the devil is testing us, he'll have somebody come up with just a little BB, and if he sees we begin to rejoice. The next person comes along, we'll have a BB. Somebody will roll down their window and say nasty things to us. Rejoice in the Lord when? Always. So in our life, we need to learn what Jesus told us. He said, I am with you always, even until the end of the world. We are working with a big man. He is in charge of our life. God is always wanting to bless his children, but he is always determined to help us learn to be thankful. Mary talked about giving a present to God when Jesus gave us to God as God's child. And you and I can give to God the gift of praise, the gift of being thankful. That is one of the most important things in our relationship with God the Father. So would you be willing to make a brand new promise to God? And it's a very simple promise. God, I will do the very best I can to be as thankful as I can. But now the next part is a little difficult. If I'm not thankful, give me another trouble so I can learn. God is working for our good, for our good, for our good. God is working for our good. Yes, he really is. God's working